Good afternoon, Sean here, Mountains Garage. The next step on our 6-liter turbo LS assembly process is to install the pistons after we file the rings to give it proper end gap. Let's go over a couple things. In the last video, you watched me install the crankshaft on the same bearings that it used to run in before I disassembled the engine. I didn't cover the fact that I did measure one main bearing journal and one cap with the bearing shells installed, and I had 2000s clearance, which is fine. In fact, if it was a little more, I'd be okay with that too, because I'm going to run 1540 diesel oil. For two reasons. One, I have a lot of it, and two, thicker oil when you're abusing something isn't a bad idea. And I'll modify the oil pump when we get to that point. But on to today's video. When I was filming several videos back and I showed you the 5.3 big rod pressed piston Gen 3.5 rods, I noticed that they had a brand new set of rod bearings in them, at least by looks. Further inspection revealed that these are dated March 2004. You would never believe it by looking at them. Look like they came out of the box. So guess what I'm using on this motor? That's right, I'm putting these back in. So I did measure one rod journal and one connecting rod. And again, I'm at 2000, so it'll be fine. I used a micrometer to measure the bearing journal, setting that as my standard. I carefully used the dial bore gauge without scratching the bearing, which I didn't want to do. And I came up with 2000s. And then just for kicks, I measured the journal with this and measured the inside of the rod, rotating this slightly just to make sure I get to the biggest opening, and also came up with 2000. So I've never gone this method. This is really simple, just using a dial caliper. I'm not sure it's the most accurate method, but I did repeat the findings that I had with the dial bore gauge. There's also nothing wrong with plastic gauge as long as nothing moves. If you're doing a rod bearing, you need to lock the crankshaft down so it doesn't turn, because it's going to skew your readings. So the crankshaft is less likely to move when you're doing the main bearing, but also if you could lock it down then, probably not a bad idea either. You need a method to hold the rod while you loosen the bolts on the cap. This nice rod vise was an excellent gift a long time ago from my big brother as well. He's always given me very useful gifts that I will cherish and use forever. In this case, he built this out of a few blocks of steel. Probably took a few minutes to drill these long holes accurately, and it works excellent. I've never even really tried to protect it, but it's never rusted. It's actually a pretty incredible piece. I mean, I don't leave it outside, but still, this thing is, well, I don't know, 30 years old probably. Connecting rod orientation on a Gen 4 rod. See these large flat spots on the lower part of the connecting rod? They're smaller in this direction, and we have a dimple. My research tells me these need to face the front of the engine, no matter where they're installed. Doesn't matter which bank. Of course, the piston has a dot that faces forward, and I found, after going and checking 3 or 4 sets of rods that I have, for me it's easy enough just to put the dimple opposite the dot. So the dimple's facing rearward in the engine. My large flat spots are facing forward, along with my dot. Now for the actual measuring of the rings. I don't remember where I picked this up. It's universal because it moves in and out, but it squares the ring and the bore. You can use a flat top piston if you have it, but it's hard not to cock it. These, while it's kind of hokey, do a good job of stopping it square. And it's a simple matter of taking a feeler gauge and measuring your gap. On the LS rings, the top ring is really hard. It probably takes 30 or 40 spins on the ring filer. And yes, you go counterclockwise. You want to go in, you want the grinding direction to be toward the piston, if that makes any sense. I also only grind, and for reference I use the dot side. I set it in my filer and try to hold it square. It's really easy to get out of square, so I only go a little bit and check it. It gives you time to correct your mistake, because it's really hard to... I eyeball it as straight as possible. I turn counterclockwise, so I'm going in toward the piston. And I only grind one side, so this is always my standard. The opposite side is untouched. Because when it's in the bore, you want it as square as possible. You don't want that to be angular. But fair warning, the second groove ring cuts really easy and fast. 5 to 8 turns, and I went 10 thousandths. These rings are pretty much 20 thousandths, 19 to 20 thousandths stock, and I opened them up 10, so I'm going 30-30. The bottom one, you want to go really slow, and I go 3 or 4 turns and make sure I'm still square, and then correct if I have to, and check it. And once you get into the groove, it moves along pretty fast. The oil rings, you don't touch those. They're fine the way they are. Installing the rings on the pistons I find to be incredibly easy with these. I literally just start it in the groove by twisting it a little bit and then work it around. There's almost no stress on the ring. They come off and on the same way. If you're stressing it, or you can use a tool to spread it, but sometimes it's hot on the backside. I just start one corner in the groove and walk it right around my finger. There's plenty of room to do it. It's probably a wise move to set all your end gaps and install all the rings on the pistons before installing them in the engine. I don't follow my own advice because I guess I want instant gratification, so every time I get one ready to install, I go ahead and tap it in using my 4-inch bore tapered ring installer, which I bought when I did the 6-liter in the Model A. This is the first LS motor I ever bought. I bought it from my buddy who had it under the bench at the dealership where he works. I didn't know anything about LS motors at the time. I can't tell you. I think I knew at the time. I think it's a 2004, but I don't remember. I didn't know the difference between Gen 3 and Gen 4. I put rings and bearings in it and put it all back together stock, including the camshaft. Because it's in a Model A, it's pretty light. And it's got dual quads on it. It probably will run pretty good the way it is. Changing the camshaft later on would be easy enough anyway, but I'm curious what it's going to sound like the way it is. But I don't know anything about this motor to speak of that I can remember. It's been 10 years since I built it. It's a tragedy. It's still sitting here, never been started. And we're going to fix that. I promise. But I remember painting this block and how hard it was to make that orange look nice. And it seems funny that 5 or 6 feet away, history repeated itself, but I gave up on it this time. I did get a tip from my buddy who works at the local auto parts store. He said he has some much better paint, and his stuff comes out fantastic, so I'll research that for next time. But right now, the cast gray is making it look better than it really is. So after I carefully install the rings on the piston, I'm going to put the rod bearings where they belong, lube it with my Ultra Slick, and I take a paintbrush and whatever clean oil I have laying around. In this case, it's some Harley oil, 2050, nice and thick. I paint it on the ring area, a little bit on the skirt side, and drop it in. I used to like dip the whole piston. That just makes a giant mess. I've already put lube, that stuff, when I assembled the connecting rods and pistons, so that's good. You can still see it in there. I mean, the stuff hangs in there. So I just lube that up, and I say I got assembly lube on the bearing itself. I carefully lower it in there, and I just reach up, make sure the rod, before I actually touch it against the crankshaft, I make sure the rod bearing's still straight and in place. I drop it down, and I wrist tighten the connecting rod bolts, and I'll torque them all at the same time. They're also, I think, 80 degrees. I have to look it up, 70 or 80 degrees, depending on which style bolt I have. So when it comes time to do that, I'll give you the correct information. I rotate the crankshaft so the journal is as far away as possible, giving you lots of room to maneuver on the way down. I couldn't find a spare crankshaft bolt yesterday when I wanted to rotate the engine. And I found myself up on the ladder on the 72 Nova trying to get the crankshaft bolt out of this 5.3. I used every device I had, impact-wise, and it wouldn't touch it. it highlighted the fact I need to make a crankshaft stop, and then I could use a giant pry bar and bust that loose in the future. But for now, I just stuck some bolts in the end of the crank, and I used a screwdriver to roll it over. And the last step before driving the piston home into the bore is I take some of this on a clean rag, WD-40, transmission fluid, something, and I wipe the cylinder wall down. This one hasn't been cleaned yet. Just to get the final amount of whatever dirt may be existing, or grit, or whatever, just to give it a chance. It certainly won't hurt. Ring gap placement, you can look it up in the book. You can do whatever your personal choice is. This is my way. If I had a set of instructions, it would probably be close to this. The oil ring gap, the oil ring in the middle looks like an M or a W. I want it to join facing down. So its parting line is facing down. I'm going to put the gap opposite the dot. So in this case, I got it right in line with the piston pin, the gap facing down, and then I take one of the support rings. I set it about a ½ inch away from the gap that's in the middle. I run it around. Then I go a ½ inch the other direction and run it around. The gaps on the two silver rings should be about 1 inch away from the gap, no more. On the LL, you have this little dot here. I like to avoid that, so my gaps are pretty much right there. For the second ring, if you're looking at the engine this way, the ring gap's going to be at the bottom. I'm going to put the top ring gap at the top. So make sure my ring is dot up. I'll show you how easy they go on. I just start it in the groove. I just push it around with my finger. No tools required, no stress. They come off the same way. Nothing to it. This style ring compressor works so easy, I like to just use my hands. When I lubed up the rings, I held them still with my other finger when I used the paintbrush, just to make sure my ring placement is still spot on. It's tapered. I just give it a nice little push. And it's in. Make sure I'm still lined up with the dot. I'm going to use my hand just to guide the connecting rod down a little ways. Now I'm going to get on my hands and knees, do a little praying. Praying it's not going to hit the crankshaft. My connecting rod still looks good. Tap it right down. And if I was smart, I would have brought the connecting rod cap with me, but I didn't. I flipped it over just so you could see better, but I always check to make sure my bearing shells are perfectly lined up. If anything's wrong, they won't be. So I just make sure that they're lined up perfectly. Well, despite all the distractions this afternoon, I managed to get 4 pistons in, and tomorrow I'll slam in the other 4. I was distracted by hunting down and cleaning parts, and then my crazy mail lady showed up, and FedEx showed up with the camshaft, so, first impressions look okay. I didn't necessarily trust the gaskets I bought for the front and rear main, so I actually bought name brand seals. The gasket themselves look fine. You can even use the old ones, they were reusable. And I did buy new, made in USA, lifters and push rods, 7/400. I'll check it, but it's probably going to work. That's the push rod, 7.400 long. And I've collected 2 of these Camaro Firebird, smaller than stock for, alleged horsepower. Going to slow the accessories down. I have a Camaro water pump, alternator bracket, and if I do need a power steering pump, I'll have to come up with something that fits that arrangement. I have all the truck stuff, but I don't have a truck balancer, and this gives me about an extra inch between the engine and the radiator, with the Corvette's the closest, Camaro Firebird's in the middle, and truck is the furthest away from the engine block, taking up more space toward the radiator. Stock Camaro and Firebird, the alternator would be down here. That's how I have it on the Model A. The bracket I had bought for the 63 Nova that I was doing with the big single turbo on the passenger side. I bought an ICT billet alternator bracket. Puts the alternator up about here, probably in the way if I'm going to run the twin turbo S366s and the up and forward headers. I think the truck stuff would fit. I could always buy a truck balancer if I have enough room between the radiator. These are all things that I'll figure out as I go. So the next video, or the next time we talk, I'm going to work on the camshaft, the time and chaining gears, and the oil pump. They all need a few mods. They're all cleaning up really nice. I started with some nasty looking stuff, but there's no wear in this stuff. So if you can spend $100 on a new oil pump and then modify it, or you can just take an old one, clean it up, go ahead and do your mods and stick it in. And that's what I'm going to do. So thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in a day or two.